This is True Crime Kent.
Well, here we are, Op. We did it. We finally made it to this episode. Do you know what that means?
No.
Absolutely nothing. This is just another episode.
Ah.
Doesn't mean anything. That being said, what's your all-time favorite band?
Boy.
All-time favorite.
I don't know if I'm like everybody else, but like whether maybe it's the season. I'm not really I am a bit of a mood guy, like, oh, well, I feel like I'm in the mood for this. Every once in a while, though, I'll have like a throwback couple like months where I'll listen to is like something from the 70s or the 80s.
Right.
Or I'll just rotate a band. Like last week, I played early albums from Radiohead for like 3 days. Before that, I was playing folk stuff from the 70s. My favorite band of all time. Oh man. I got to say Tool.
Tool?
Tool.
You a big fan of Maynard James Keenan? It's a divisive character.
Yes, he is. He is. Yeah, we are probably polar opposites on. He's very much a poke the poopy bear when it comes to like ideology. Like he likes to poke religion and politics and stuff subtly.
Yeah.
More in like real life than in the songs, but in the songs even he does a good amount of it. But you can't avoid the musical genius that are all four members of that band. They are all apex predators in their respective musical
instrument.
Yep, they really are.
Well, since a lot of this, good choice, by the way, Tool. I can get behind that.
Thanks.
But since a lot of this story circles around the band Pantera, who do you think my favorite band is?
Pantera?
Wrong. The Dixie Chicks. The Dixie Chicks. The Dixie Chicks, they're the Pantera of the country music scene in the aspect that the lead singer says things on stage that ruins their career.
It's true. It's true. They didn't really read the room very well. They didn't ask how many of their people were George Bush Republicans before they came out.
Yeah, they're like in a crowd of 1 million Republicans. She gets up there and goes, "No more war." And Republicans love war. It's their favorite. So, what a dumbass.
Yeah, it's a pastime. It's like apple baseball and football pie. I will say, I think that if another member of the Dixie Chicks, or the Chicks as they're now known because they feel like their DEI score goes up if they go with that. I think if another member of the band had been the one to say the no more war, it wouldn't have had such a blowback, but the most punchable member of the Dixie Chicks was the one to do it. And I think that hurt business.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also, by the way, not a huge Dixie Chicks fan. I would say my favorite band of all time is probably Guns N' Roses.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And that's for reasons that, well, I could talk about them now. I mean, my father had a late 80s Firebird when I was little, to the surprise of nobody. It was full Firebird, had the Firebird on the hood, the gold, the emblem, the T-tops. And some of my fondest memories with my dad when I was little, when he was sober, were riding up front with him with the T-tops off, blaring rock music. And I just remember sitting there with my little feet kicking in the passenger seat, because this is the like early 90s, right? We didn't do car seats.
Right.
Those were for fucking liberals. Like, my little feet kicking. And I remember listening to Guns N' Roses and AC/DC and Leonard Skinner, and of course Pantera. And that's how I was introduced to Pantera. So they've always kind of had a special place in my heart just because I equate them to being with Dad and that Firebird when he was sober.
I just had a really good idea that you just brought up, and I think it's groundbreaking. I haven't Googled it yet to see if the domain name's available, but you said effing liberals, right? And then I thought that could be a really good pornography site. If you think about it, it's like an action where it's like effing liberals. And then it's either like far right wing, well, characters, obviously, because you can't tell their ideology just by their sex acts. So visibly very MAGA people having sex with very obviously liberal people, or it's like kind of a reality sex site where it's liberals having sex with each other and the unique nuances of what that looks and sounds like.
Right.
Effingliberals.com.
I would like to start a porno site where it's hardcore liberals that are made to have sex with hardcore conservatives. And while fucking, they have to discuss their political beliefs.
Oh, wow.
And the guy has to keep it up and the girl has to stay moist.
That's a challenge. That sounds like American Gladiators level, like, challenge.
I think that would be interesting, not even for masturbation purposes, just to watch. I think that would be a really fun watch. You got a chick here, she's got 50 piercings and purple hair. And, you know, you got a dude here with a buzz cut.
Yeah.
And a fucking tribal tattoo. He's fucking her with his concealed carry.
Open carry on his hip.
Open carry on. Pulls up with his Blue Lives Matter decal. And they have to have sex and discuss things like abortion.
That would be wild. And, you know, you have some ground rules where your argument can't just go to disabusing the competitor. You have to stay relevant and your responses have to be cogent the whole time. You can't just be like, well, you're a racist.
And you have to keep it up.
Yeah. Wow, we might have just stumbled on a whole new kind of revenge, anger porn type of thing.
And of course, you could also do it. Actually, I think I would be more interested in seeing it the other way around, where it's like ironically, a purple-haired, heavily pierced man, and it's a frail man.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, it's like an overweight conservative woman with a buzz cut. And
yeah, I mean, the options are the drop-down menu on that website would be wild, just the different categories and options. And then you could like pay money to request a certain combination, and then production would make that happen within several weeks. And then they would email you and say, your request is complete. And you'd go and you'd watch a male barista from a niche non-GMO coffee shop have sex with the artillery specialist,
a member of the NRA,
a female artillery specialist from Louisiana. You know,
I would pay to watch that, and keep my pants zipped. It would be fascinating.
That would be. I brought this up, so I can't even blame you.
Jess is shaking her head, but she'd watch it.
That's the head shake you're getting from that. It's the 1 foot stare, which you know she's involved. She's hypnotized by what we're talking about. And the nod is she's going through the categories in her head like, no, yeah, that's the one. No, yeah, that's the one. We're on to something. And I apologize. I brought that up. I apologize.
Yeah. I didn't even bring up that sinning smut. You brought it up this time.
I apologize.
Today, however, our focus is on the man who killed one of the founding members of Pantera, arguably one of the greatest guitarists of all time, Dimebag Darrell. Our hero, Dimebag Darrell, may he rest in peace. And today we're talking about the killer, Nathan Gale.
Okay. I have to be honest. I know Dimebag Daryl died. Other
Yeah.
than that, I don't know anything. So,
Yeah, well, there's a reason for that. The information on Nathan Gale is very slim. And there's a reason for that. His mother, after this happened, kind of said he did what he did, and no matter what I say, it's not going to change people's opinion of him, so his life story will die with me.
oh, okay. So, okay. Well, it's sort of like the guy that lived with the bears and he and his girlfriend got eaten and it's on audio. Apparently the most intense version of the audio is it's in the hands of the family, and they're never going to release it, they said. So it's sort of like that. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard. This is a hard man to research. And as far as I know, what we have here is the most in-depth compilation of his life that I'm aware of, at least for this episode. You don't hear a lot about him because there's not a lot out there.
So you think we're creating like something like kind of the Library of Alexandria on Dimebag Daryl? This is the penultimate episode for referencing Dimebag Daryl's demise.
Not Dimebag Daryl, Nathan Gale. We know everything about Dimebag Daryl. He was famous.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Because this show is about the criminal, we're going to be focusing on Nathan Gale and kind of following Pantera along during the story as well.
This should be fun. I'm actually I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, this was a tough one to write, but I did enjoy it because of my love for Pantera. Shout out to Dad, who is somewhere.
He's right behind you. He's
now
right behind you.
in soul.
He's behind you.
R.I.P. Dad.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Dimebag Dad.
Dimebag Dad. Oh my gosh, that really kind of works. That's crazy.
Nathan Miles Gale was born on September 11th, 1979 in Calumet City, Illinois. Now, he was raised by his mother, Mary Ann Clark, and no information exists publicly on who his father is or was. But, I mean, if you look at pictures of Nathan, a grown-up version of Nathan, his father could be possibly either Jim Gaffigan or an Aryan Brotherhood version of Casper. I'm serious. This dude was white. You could have probably watched his food digest if he had lifted his shirt. He looked like a less glittery, chubby vampire from Twilight. Like the one that none of the good-looking vampires hang out with. Like maybe he got changed accidentally one night at an arcade because Edward got drunk and trigger-happy with his teeth.
You got to imagine that the Cullens had a couple of those. They're like, yeah, no, that was an emotional moment, and I shouldn't have turned Jed into a vampire.
They show up to fuck around at 3 a.m. at Walmart and change somebody in the automotive section at Walmart at 3 a.m. You know that's a real inbred looking piece of shit. Who's looking at Fram oil filters in a Walmart at 3 a.m. Dude has 4 teeth, and now 2 of them are incisors.
Wouldn't that be? That's a fun movie. A movie about a redneck vampire that had no teeth to begin with, and he still has no teeth. You know, it's like he just gums people.
What in the hell? He's looking in the mirror. Holes in the drywall behind him. What in the fuck? Uses them to crack shotgun beers.
The smoke alarm's
But it's
beeping every once in a while.
Beep. 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 All natty light. He ends up just dying of malnutrition because he doesn't understand.
He's the first vampire to actually just wither away.
The beer just makes him sick.
He's a vampire that can't stay alive. That's funny.
Actually, he only stays alive because he's been eating nothing but rare meat his entire life.
That's all he can do. So he can't leave the Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah. Them rolls, they just don't hit like they used to. 3 years later in 1981, so 3 years after Nathan's born, 939 miles away from Calumet City, Illinois, in Arlington, Texas, there were two teenage brothers by the name of Vinnie Paul and Dimebag Darrell, and they're forming a new band. And guess what it was called, Up?
What?
Brooks and Dunn, which is a weird name considering neither of them were named that. I'm kidding. They were forming Pantera. That Brooks and Dunn bit didn't hit you guys the way I thought it would. You're apparently not country music fans. Brooks and Dunn sang that. Mama Marie.
No, in town, I know I know when there's a Brooks and Dunn concert because everybody comes out of their house looking like Dylan Klebold because they're going to the concert, and those black dusters, it's just like, I don't know, everyone seems to have one, and they just
That's true.
it's weird.
That's true. They Brooks and Dunn does kind of look like the Columbine shooters if they had just got into accounting.
If they had gotten into rodeo rather than
Yeah.
yeah.
Back to Nathan Gale's pasty ass. In 1983, he's 4 years old, and him and his mother, Mary, they moved to Bellefontaine, Ohio. Now, it's a small town there in central Ohio where likely the most exciting thing to ever happen was a toss-up between that time that Elmer said the N-word at the town hall meeting or that time in 1991 when the homecoming queen, Peggy Sue, showed her tits at the yearly demolition derby. This is a small town. Not a lot of exciting things happen. The fire department might respond to one hay bale fire a year. I know this town because I basically grew up in this town in Kentucky. But he's 4 years old when they move here. In 1986, back down there in Texas, Pantera brings Phil and Selmo on board as the lead vocals because they were looking to get a little heavier with their music. They wanted a heavier, kind of raspy sound. And Phil, for all his faults, I don't know how much you know about Pantera, but for all his faults, and Phil will be the lead singer of Pantera for the rest of their existence, Pantera, the band's existence. Phil, for all his faults, and he does have many of them, he does have one of the most distinct voices in metal, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'd say Megadeth also, just because, like, also a very unique voice.
Yeah, Megadeth, and as much hate as he gets. I can't remember his name. The lead singer of Disturbed.
Yes. Yeah, unique voice.
Is an amazingly impressive vocal range. It's a shame that he sings with Disturbed.
Yeah, there's that problem.
Have you heard his cover of What's that Simon and Garfunkel song?
Hello, Darkness, my old friend.
Hello, Darkness, my old friend. It's incredible.
It is. It is.
And then that guy goes and does, ooh, ah! He's capable of doing that. In 1990, Pantera, with now Phil Anselmo leading, releases their album Cowboys from Hell, and it's their first huge hit. They're officially on the scene. Meanwhile, in 1991, just a year after Cowboys from Hell releases, Nathan Gale is 12 years old back there in Bellefontaine, Ohio, and he starts getting into trouble for random petty shit, shoplifting, vandalism, that kind of thing. Now, at the time, his probation officer notes that he's introverted, and he only acts out this way because he's craving attention from his overworked mother and non-existent father.
Tale as old as time.
Tale as old as time. Now, meanwhile, Pantera is a huge hit. They're touring. They're living like fucking rock stars. And I don't know what rock stars do. Probably eating steaks with lots of A1 because they can afford all of the A1 that they want, despite how expensive it is.
That's right.
They're throwing away Gillette razors after using them just one time. That kind of thing. That's what rock stars do.
It's true. FNRockstars.com. That'd be another one you just mentioned, and that would be a little less Like people see that one coming. Oof. No pun intended.
A lot of STDs.
Yeah.
On February 25th, 1992, Pantera releases Vulgar Display of Power, their new album, and it's a fucking banger.
I would say the bangerest.
To this day.
It's the bangerest of them all.
It is a banger. If you haven't heard that album, it's so good.
Yep.
Vulgar Display of Power. 2 years later, in 1994, now 15-year-old Nathan Gale starts high school at Benjamin Logan High School there in Bellefontaine. And this is also the year that Nathan is introduced to the band Pantera. He becomes obsessed with that 1992 album that we just talked about, Vulgar Display of Power. Listens to it all of the time, non-stop. And that's probably extremely aggravating to his poor mother, Mary, because when my 9-year-old discovered Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush, I wanted to fucking kill myself.
Yeah. They did us wrong.
If I only could make a deal with God. Running up that, it doesn't even make any sense. The song's terrible. My daughter loved it.
It was bad back then, when in the 80s when it was made, and that somebody dredged it back up out of what should have been a deep, dark hole.
What kicked it up out of that hole, I don't know if you know this, was Stranger Things, the show.
Yeah, they made it popular. Well, let's be honest. Stranger Things did two things that season. It made Kate Bush become something that she never should have been and wasn't. And they actually added Metallica to the repertoire of a whole new generation. So good and bad, I guess we could say.
Yeah, a lot of 13-year-olds running around being like, have you heard of this new band, Metallica?
Yeah. Ugh.
In March of that same year, so while Nathan Gale is in Ohio here discovering Pantera, in March of that same year, Pantera releases their next album, which was called Far Beyond Driven. That album is actually eventually not my favorite album of theirs.
Not mine neither.
But it is eventually placed by Rolling Stone as number 39 on their list of the 100 greatest metal albums of all time.
Did Vulgar Display of Power make the list?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's weird. To me, that's weird.
Yeah. That they put Far Beyond Driven above Vulgar Display of Power? Yeah. What would you say the number one album on that list was?
Is this a metal list?
Yeah, metal.
Oh, see, then again, so I don't know if they'd factor Tool in as metal, but if they did factor Tool in, I would probably say Tool's Enema would be number one on the list.
It's funny because Enema's for number 2s.
Tool. Classic us banter.
I don't know who was number one. I didn't look at the list. 1995. When Nathan is 16 years old, he begins telling his classmates that the band Pantera regularly visits him at school during lunch and after school. Just straight up, I hate to ruin the suspense, but that's a lie. That's not happening. Pantera isn't showing up at this random school in Ohio to visit a 16-year-old. It does kind of make me wonder, though, what's the craziest thing one of your classmates claimed up?
Oh, I had a classmate who claimed that he had gay fathers. So he had two gay dads, but he insisted that they birthed him and would not come off that hill. Like he was going to die on that hill. And we were like, it's not, and we're not talking 2023 birthed dad kind of menstruating human or body or whatever they call.
Yeah.
No, this is two dudes straight up in the 90s, gay.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like the kid was like, I don't know how to feel, like I feel out of this displaces me. But this is how I'm going to make it a new normal for myself. And
now he works for he did work for Twitter.
There was nothing you could do. There was nothing you could say. Like it was just fact. And we're like, all right. All right. That's what we say to him.
What's he doing now?
Oh,
I'm genuinely curious.
let me look him up. Hold on. I'll tell you. Because I got it right here. I can tell you because he's
Aside from
a
protests.
friend of mine on Facebook. So he is. Got him. He is the music director at a college. I won't say the college because then it'll out him. He's a music director at a college, an Ivy League college.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, wow. I wonder if he's still telling people. Like, he could have resurfaced that argument this year and he probably would have gotten a raise.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like this has become about me and my friend. Go, please continue.
Fellow students of Nathan, because, Nathan's running around telling the students, hey, I'm friends with Pantera. They come and visit me at lunch. They ain't got nothing better to do than visit a 16-year-old at lunch. I'm friends with him. They're worrying about his mental health. His friends, well, I use the word friends lightly. He didn't have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
But his friends and fellow students, and they informed staff at the high school. Hey, we think something's wrong with this guy. And then the staff turn around and inform his mother, Mary. And when he gets home that night, his mother, Mary, confronts him and says, hey, Nathan, you're just a 16-year-old in a town in Ohio. She was kind of mean about it. A famous band isn't going to bother to come and see you.
Aww. Could you imagine people in a school today ruining the delusions of kids? Can't. They'd be fired. Couldn't do that.
You can't.
You could not ruin this kid's delusions today. You gotta let them go.
I did not see this episode turning into a conservative rant about trans kids. I gotta say, you impressed the shit out of me.
It wasn't trans. I was saying, like, if this kid came and said, Phil Anselmo visits me at lunch, the school could not say you're crazy. I'm not even putting this in any other camp. I'm just saying schools have to tread very lightly now with kids' views.
Yep. Keep going.
No, I'm leaving it there. That's where I wanted to leave it. I wasn't going to go.
I'm just fucking
I'm scared
with you,
now. I'm scared of everything.
I love you all.
I'm scared of everything.
After this confrontation with his mother, he does stop telling people that he's friends with Pantera. He does cut that out altogether. That same year, meanwhile, on the road, unfortunately, Pantera is starting to fall apart. It turns out that Phil Anselmo, the lead singer, he has back problems. He's got a lot of back pain. And in order to alleviate his back pain, he starts abusing heroin and alcohol. And his heroin abuse causes erratic behavior, which is odd for a heroin addict.
Yeah, that's weird.
They can't really depend on him like they used to be able to. He's acting crazy. He's on heroin. And tension begins building in the band between the Abbott brothers, Phil, between the Abbott brothers, Vinny and Daryl, and Phil, the lead singer. Now, for the Abbott brothers, from the beginning all the way to they're unfortunately both dead today, it was always about the music. Always about the music. And actually, Phil's heroin use got so bad that on July 13th, 1996, he actually overdoses on heroin and is brought back with Narcan.
Wow.
And I honestly think that every shot of Narcan should come with the sound effect it makes in Mario when you get one of those one-up green mushrooms.
Doink, 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 doink.
Seeing as Narcan is the drug abuse equivalent. It's like I keep a green mushroom in my pocket if I'm a crackhead. And also because it also shoots their adrenaline through the roof, they do kind of come up in the form of like, that pose that Mario takes when he jumps?
Yeah.
Ba-ding! When you overdose, it goes boo woo 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 boop boop.
I wonder if you and I just started, how much of the theme song and supporting music for Mario Brothers we could get through just off the cuff. Like, how much is it embedded in our heads to, if we just started gameplay. Okay, now, choke, choke, choke. We went down to tube. Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Boo 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 boo.
Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Boo 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 boo.
Da-na-na-na-na. There is not another game on Earth where two random people could sing the theme song. That can't do it. That's amazing. All right. Sorry.
Mid-November 1996, when Nathan Gale is 17 years old, he and his mother moved from Bellefontaine, Ohio, to Marysville, Ohio, just 30 minutes away, and get an apartment at 1024 Coventry Place. It was like a big apartment area. It's still there, completely unchanged. Nathan begins attending Marysville High School there, and in June of 97, he graduates from Marysville High School. Now, after graduating, he remains unemployed. He's living with his mother still. He enrolls at Ohio High Point Community College for a construction electrician course. And he does actually finish this course after about a year. But in August of 1997, he is charged with criminal trespassing after skateboarding at the Kmart there on North Main Street. And you know how they sell like Dr. Thunder and Mountain Holler, which are just cheaper versions of Dr. Pepper and Mountain Dew?
Yes.
That's how I always looked at Kmart. It was like the Mountain Holler of Walmart.
Yeah.
Kmart never seemed to have that like atmosphere of a Walmart. There's never like a one-legged Vietnam vet cussing out a 7-year-old barefoot kid in the cheap compressed board furniture section of a Kmart. There's never a morbidly obese woman with a walker wearing leggings so tight that you can actually see the wrinkles of her asshole when she bends over at Kmart. You don't get the atmosphere of a Kmart.
Down to the lighting. Like they looked at Walmart and they're like, it's too bright.
Yeah.
Could we get half the light brightness?
So I always bring a flashlight to Walmart. I'll tell you how crazy Walmart is, and this is true. I saw a video. A fire broke out in a Walmart, and people were still shopping. Just like, oh, there's a fire. That happens sometimes. And I'm not talking about a little fire where you could see the flames. If you were in the toy section, you could see the flames over there by the cat litter. And what's fucked up about Walmart is I just said that, and everybody knows exactly where those two things are.
We knew the distance they're talking about. It was relatable.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's on two separate corners.
Oh, man.
People just shopping, and not even for things they need. There's a fucking lady looking at a crock pot, and half of the Walmart is on fire. Saw that video. I thought that was crazy. There's no other place like Walmart.
No, there isn't.
I do think COVID-19 ruined nighttime shopping at Walmart.
Yeah.
Yep, Jess is agreeing. That was the best time to go at 1 a.m. when nobody else was there, even if you're not wanting to buy anything.
Yep. If you want to just people watch, that's the best time.
And I got to tell you, I just now realized how sad this was. That was one of the things that I liked to do a long time ago when I was broke, was window shop at Walmart. And I just realized how depressing that is. Like one day when I have $11.99, I'll get that.
Yeah. You've come a long way.
Yeah. Now I'll window shop at JCPenney, baby. December of 1997, Mary Clark, Nathan's mom, wakes up in the middle of the night and finds Nathan in the living room just pacing the floor, freaking out, walking back and forth. He's rubbing his fucking pasty bald head, like freaking out. She asks him what's going on, and he claims there's people outside videotaping him through their windows. Now, you probably see where this is going. This is the early phases of schizophrenia.
Mm.
But at the time, Mary assumed that this was he was doing this because he was just doing psychedelic drugs again. So she went back to bed, and that's solid parenting.
Yeah.
Solid parenting. Oh, he's just, I thought something was wrong. You're just doing drugs.
Ugh.
Now, a few weeks later, she does confront him about his drug usage, and the two, they get into a heated verbal dispute, and Nathan ends up violently shoving his mom against a wall, and she calls 911. Now, I need to point out that Nathan Gale, at this point in time, is 6'4" and 250 pounds. Just looks like a human-shaped ball of mayonnaise. A giant human ball of mayonnaise. She has police remove him from the house, declines to press charges, but she does tell him he's barred from seeing her and coming to the house until he gets help for his drug use and mental issues. Nathan, however, refuses. So she puts him out on his ass. And good on her.
That's a hard move.
I think. Good on her.
Hard move.
Yeah, it is. I think, I know I've joked about his mom here a little bit, but I think in this whole story, she kind of did everything that she could do. She's just another victim in this story, honestly.
Yeah.
Nathan begins, he's homeless now. He begins working minimum wage jobs, one after another. Just boom, boom, boom. Nothing that he really stays at. So many of them, gas stations, fast food joints. He's also panhandling and stealing in the side. Like I said, he's now homeless, and on several occasions, his mother, Mary, does find Nathan sleeping on her porch from time to time over the next few months. What's the weirdest place you've slept?
For several months when I was a teen, I preferred driving somewhere like, the edge of Table Rock, which was overlook of Boise. I really enjoyed sleeping in the back seat of my Cadillac 500. It was more comfortable than my bed. It was very cushy. Not Cadillac 500. It was a big old giant blue Cadillac, 74 or 75 Cadillac. It was glorious.
What kind of Cadillac? Eldorado? Fleetwood?
I don't remember the exact model, but I can tell you that it had
DeVille.
It's 75. It had dual climate zones. Like grandma could control herself and grandpa.
You're the only person that gives a fuck about that.
And cruise control. 75, it had cruise control.
Yeah, I know cruise control is a very big deal to you. For whatever reason, that's half the conversations we have anytime you rent a new vehicle. Look at the cruise. I don't even know. I don't know that I've ever used cruise control in my whole fucking life, but it's all that matters to you when it comes to vehicles.
It had a Cadillac 500 engine, which they also use in airplanes. It was amazing. It was so powerful, and it was like driving a giant mattress. It was so cushy.
Yeah, it looks like a giant mattress too.
Yeah, it did. It did.
A big metal mattress with a windshield.
Yeah. Very heavy.
In 1999, when he's 20 years old, in order to escape homelessness, Nathan moves back to Bellefontaine and in with some childhood friends to an apartment there. They pretty quickly end up kicking him back out, though, because of his drug abuse, and then he moves back to Marysville. This all happens in the span of a few months because in June of 1999, back there in Marysville, he is charged with criminal trespassing again, but this time not for skating at Kmart, but for continually sleeping in a local park.
Oh, yeah. Petty stuff.
That's called being homeless in a local park.
Yeah, exactly.
A year later, in 2000, at 21 years old now, he finally contacts his mom and he says, hey, I've hit rock bottom. I'm ready to get treatment if that means I can move back in with you. And she allows it. And that's what you have to kind of do as somebody who has been affected by drugs, not because I use them, but, you know, you have to let them hit the bottom.
Yeah. And I wonder, like,
you got to drop
when
it.
When I heard what you just said, my red flag went up and said, I would have made the negotiation, get into treatment, and then you can come back, you know, as opposed to the other way. Cause you get him in and gets comfortable, doesn't want to go to treatment. It's back to square one. Now you got to get rid of him again. But it's easier said than done. And you really you can't judge,
it is
the co-suffering, members of an addict's life.
It's hard, man. It's hard to just let them loose.
Yep.
One of my family members, I'm not going to say who. Actually, I can say who because he wouldn't mind, because he's great now. He's been clean for years. He's got a great job. He's a great father. My brother, you know, he had addiction problems when he was younger. And for a long period of time there, it got to where the next call I was waiting on was just, he's dead.
Yep.
I thought, and then he had his son and he was ready for change, I guess, and went to rehab, and now he's been clean for years and he's got a great job. He's a great dad. And it took, I think, him hitting rock bottom, and he did. And now he's on top. Nathan is living with his mother here. However, while staying with her, she still frequently, even though he's clean now, not on drugs, she frequently finds him pacing his bedroom floor late at night because he still thinks he's being spied on. He thinks there's people with cameras outside. He's freaking out. He also claims he starts hearing voices at this point. Tells her, hey, I'm hearing voices. And, you know, we've covered so many cases in TCK, and we always know where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is never, and then he began hearing voices, and then he started a Fortune 500 company. That's never where this goes.
Right.
Ever. Around the time the voices start, Nathan gets a job at an industrial ceramics product He gets a job at Industrial Ceramic Products at 14401 Central Way there in Marysville. It's still there to this day, and they make ceramic shit. Lots of it. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just ceramic. It looks like a boring fucking job. It looks terrible. But it's a factory that makes ceramic products. But that job doesn't last long because in October of 2000, he's charged with driving with a suspended license. And then in late 2000, just after a few months of employment there, he does get in trouble for stealing a balance scale from Industrial Ceramic Products, and he's fired.
Darn it. Well, balance scale, would that be for drugs use, or was it maybe?
I don't know what else you would want a balance scale for.
Or maybe value. Maybe it was valuable enough that it could have been pawned or something.
Possibly that. Yeah. In February of 2002, he's now 22 years old. Unable to hold down a regular job, mentally unstable, and a recovering drug addict, Nathan Gale joins the Marine Corps. Tell as old as time. I've seen it a million times.
I was going to say, I've heard this story before.
Seen it a million times. It turns out so keep in mind this was February of 2002. It turned out that the September 11th attacks, which had happened actually on his birthday, he was born on September 11th of 79, they had a huge effect on him.
Oh.
When he was in the Marine Corps, he served as an auto mechanic with the 2nd Marine Division there at Camp Lejeune, which is where I was with the same division that I was.
Really?
Yeah.
Just a different time?
Different time. Yeah. In 2002, I was still in high school.
Oof.
But it turns out the September 11th attacks, though, had more effect than on just Nathan Gale. Do you remember those attacks?
Oh, yeah.
They were like a big deal. It was a big deal when it happened.
They captured not only the attention, but the time of the world. I think I've mentioned this before, but I was an engineer at HP, and I wheeled a TV on a rolling stand into my cubicle.
Yep.
And it was trained on the news, and we didn't turn it off for like 2 months after that because you had all the Middle Eastern conflicts. This was the first time that like they were using those satellite, like, you know, what we know now as Google Earth, the zoom in keyhole kind of reporting where the tanks were. And we had it on for probably 2 months straight before I was just like, okay, let's wheel it out. Yeah, it changed.
So you were working at Hewlett-Packard on the morning of September 11th. I remember, everybody can remember where they were. I was a freshman in high school. I was in Mr. J.D. Bussel's science class.
Really?
And he stopped class abruptly and said, "We are not doing class today. We have something that will be in the history books happening as we speak." And we didn't understand the magnitude of the situation as dumbass, 15 and 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
And we stopped and watched it for the entire class, completely not understanding. Like, this is horrible. We knew that, but we didn't understand. Like, we didn't understand the gravity of the situation.
It hit everybody. I mean, there was you didn't know what you were looking at when for the first day. You barely could wrap your head around what you were looking at.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So the September 11th attacks, they had the effect on Nathan, caused him to join the Marine Corps. The attacks also affected Phil Anselmo, the lead singer of Pantera. And he actually tells the Abbott brothers after the September 11th attacks that he wants to take a break from Pantera and from performing in general for a while. But he says one thing and fucking does a completely other, because he also, while taking a break from Pantera and kind of leaving the Abbott brothers with their thumbs in their ass, he starts performing with other bands during this time, specifically a band called Superjoint Ritual and another band called Down.
I remember Down.
Kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Kind of a shitty thing to do. In Christmas of 2002, Nathan Gale is now a Marine stationed at Camp Lejeune, and his mother's very proud of him. And for Christmas that year, she gets him a gift up, and it is a gift that will change the world of music as we know it, unfortunately. That gift was a 9mm Beretta 92F.
Yeah, that's a confusing gift for a mother of an addict, right? Mother of an addict to give her son.
An addict schizophrenic.
Yeah. Although he hadn't done any time really for any, so he wouldn't have been on parole. I mean, there really wouldn't have been. Anyway,
no, he wasn't on parole or anything. He never been in serious trouble.
Yeah, but that's an odd flex. That's an odd thing to.
I think in her head, she's thinking he's in the Marines now. He's cleaned up.
Good point.
He's lost weight. He's not on drugs. I think he's finally got his life on track.
Yeah.
There's no way of knowing where this goes.
That's a good point. Good point.
In November of 2003, Pantera officially breaks up. It turns out that the Abbott brothers, Vinnie Paul and Dimebag Darrell, the founders of the band, had got sick of waiting for Phil Anselmo, the lead singer, to be ready to perform with them again. And they said, fuck this.
Yeah.
And they pretty much dip out, and I don't blame them. And look, as much as I love Pantera and as much as I will give Phil Anselmo credit for being talented, I think the breakup was primarily Phil Anselmo's fault. Vinnie Paul and Dimebag Darrell immediately form a new band called Damage Plan. Damage Plan. Now, ironically, the very same month that Pantera breaks up, after just 2 years of service, Nathan Gale is discharged early from the Marine Corps at 24 years old.
Weird timing.
I think that, the timing is kind of hard to overlook, to say it's a coincidence. I think that Pantera breaking up really hadn't made Nathan snap, psychologically.
Yeah.
When he gets home from the Marine Corps after being discharged early, he tells his friends that he was diagnosed as schizophrenic. However, the official reason for his discharge is locked up because it's military information and they don't reveal that. I did see speculation on some websites and whatnot, other podcasts, that it was because of his weight, but that's not how it works. If you can't make weight in the Marine Corps, they don't just kick you out. They put you in what's called the pork chop platoon.
They do?
Yeah.
What, when you're active or just like when you're
active?
They move
If you can't make weight, and the Marine Corps has very, very, very strenuous weight requirements, more so than any other branch. And if you can't make weight, your life is going to fucking suck.
Really?
Fortunately, I never didn't make weight, but the guys that did, yeah, you're put on double, sometimes triple PT. So you'll PT in the morning with everybody else, and then after lunch, you're expected to be back down in PT gear to PT again, and then again in the evening.
Really?
Yeah, they'll get that fat off of you.
Dang.
They also monitor what you eat.
Start babysitting everything you're doing.
They babysit everything you do if you can't get your fat ass in check. That's why whenever I saw speculation that he was kicked out because of his weight, it's just simply not true. It's not what happens.
Like, you couldn't even think of a scenario where they put you in pork chop and then you still can't, like, where they're just like, no, we got to let you go. They would have put him on a desk job or something. I mean, they wouldn't have just let him go.
Yeah, they would have just thrown him into admin or something where him being in shape doesn't matter.
Right.
But even then, he would be in pork chop platoon. Even those guys have to be in shape. Those guys and gals still have to maintain fitness standards.
Interesting.
In 2004, he's out of the Marine Corps now. He gets an upstairs apartment at 150. That's why, I don't mean to go back on this, but whenever you read anything from the headlines during this time period when what's about to happen happens, they always say ex-Marine this, ex-Marine that, former Marine, Marine does this, Marine. Like, that was such a small part of his life. I mean, he didn't even feel half of his obligated time in the, like, if you think about it, you go to boot camp, that's 3 months. He was in for under 2 years. Like, it was like a year and 8-9 months.
Yeah.
You do boot camp, that's 3 months, and then you do MOS school, which is at the very least another 3 months. In some cases, it's a year. He had been in the fleet, which is where you're actually stationed at. You get to your unit less than 5-6 months before he got kicked out. So, I mean, it was such a small portion of his, I don't think that's really fair.
I think they do that, well, it's media again, right? So they do it to catch your eye with the headline. Like that, they'll always throw some label on a person to raise the ire of some people and make it curious. I don't like that either.
Yeah. Clickbait. It was clickbait before clickbait was a thing.
So here, let me ask you this. What would be your clickbait title if somebody was to write an article where, do you think they'd probably use the former Marine for you, wouldn't they? They'd be former Marine did this.
Probably former Marine with tits.
I wonder if they'd use true crime podcaster does X. Like, I wonder if which one holds more water?
Podcaster.
True crime podcaster or former Marine? Which one is more clickbaity? Former Marine turned true crime podcaster.
Yes.
Kills neighbor boy over $5.
Politician. In 2004, he's been kicked out of the Marine Corps. He gets an upstairs apartment at 115 East 5th Street there in Marysville. That building's still there. It's still unchanged. He also gets a job laying sod for a landscaping company there in Marysville. At this point, he's now 6'4" and 268 pounds. This is a big man.
Yeah, he's getting up there.
6'4", 268. And this is when he starts playing as an offensive lineman for a semi-pro football team called the Lima Thunder. That was kind of a left field, right? Now, I didn't find anything that said he played football in high school.
Oh,
albeit I will say information on Nathan is slim.
I wonder if sometimes they bring those guys on as just, they're like, well, you're a good wall, like.
And he was a wall, a big white wall.
Yeah.
Just a big Aryan wall. Former teammates of Nathan said that, it was weird because in the locker room before games, he wouldn't talk to anybody. He would just sit on the benches in there and blare Pantera in his headphones to pump himself up.
Well, we're not surprised on what band at least he was blaring.
Now, this is also around the time that Nathan's odd behavior really starts cranking up. One of his former friends, Dave Johnson, had a garage band. Dave did just a garage band and Nathan asked him one time hey, can I bring some songs over that I wrote? I wrote these songs and have you guys practice them with your band. And Dave Johnson's like, sure, Nathan, bring your songs over. We'll try them out. They agree. But when Nathan shows up with the songs he had written, they are just Pantera songs, verbatim.
Oh,
just straight up plagiarized word for word Pantera songs. Nathan Gale, it turns out, was the Ashley Flowers crime junkie of writing music.
I see a zing. Ouch. But true.
When he was asked about it, Nathan said that Pantera, he hadn't stole those lyrics from Pantera. They stole them from him. And he had every intention of suing the band. And I'm sure that would have went well in court. Pantera's lawyers versus Fat Powder's. So, spoiler alert, he never sued him. Spoiler alert, they didn't steal his music. Spoiler alert, Nathan Gale is a schizophrenic. Out of his fucking bonkers. He also claimed to the band there at Johnson's garage, not only were they stealing his music, but Pantera was also trying to steal his identity.
No.
And we can't count that out. I don't think it's fair to immediately assume that wasn't happening. Perhaps there was a moment where Dimebag Darrell looked at Vinnie Paul and said, hey, you know what we could really benefit from? Stealing the identity of a broke, overweight semi-pro football player with a criminal record, an early military discharge, and schizophrenia.
Yeah.
That could be really good for the band.
Even, if somebody walked into the band and was like, hey, I've got an idea, and they proposed that, you'd be walked out of the room. Like there's not even a conversation to have there.
No.
That's, again, what a beautiful, crazy thing the brain is, that it could make this man believe these things, just
yeah,
wild. Oof.
Nathan also begins hanging out. It's around this time he starts hanging out directly across the street from his apartment there on West 5th Street at a place called the Bear's Den Tattoo Parlor. That Bear's Den Tattoo Parlor, it's no longer there. It's now a little thrift shop. And he's hanging there at that tattoo parlor against the employees' best wishes. They don't like him to be there because it turns out he makes the customers super uncomfortable because he just stares way too much, sits in the front, reads magazines, doesn't get tattoos, and sometimes talks to the walls.
That'd be hard. Tattoo shops, it's like a skate shop. It's like you want culture and you want like an audience sort of, or like a record store. You want some milling about, but there's a fine line between you being a crazy person and you being a patron of the store,
Yes.
That's hard.
Very fine line.
And then a tattoo parlor on top of that. You've got all walks, you've got every single kind of person who comes in there to get a tattoo for X, Y, or Z reason,
All walks of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tattoo parlors are really cool places. I would imagine to hang out. I've never hung out at one. I'm covered in tattoos, but it just always felt like you were in the way.
Yeah.
Like if you weren't getting a tattoo,
I used to watch those documentaries, or not, like the TV shows like LA Inc. and stuff. And I always felt like they missed the mark because the random person would come in, Kat Von D's going to give them a tattoo. And they're like, yeah, I'm getting this tattoo for XYZ. And there's the amazing story right there. But they're like, okay, what do you want it to look like? And they just pass over the story part.
Yeah.
And go into what the tattoo is going to look. And I was like, man, that's the TV show right there. It's tattoo stories, because everyone that comes in it's either a total dumpster fire where they don't have any reason and they're drunk, or the reason is super compelling. I don't know why I said that.
No, you're right. I'm giggling internally at the thought that I go in there and get the Chive logo tattooed on my ass and them asking me to tell the compelling story. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never been to the website.
You might get out of tickets.
And that's a true story. I do have the Chive tattooed on my ass, the logo. Keep calm, Chive on. Never been to it. Don't know what it means.
If you get pulled over, you should let the police officer know you have a Chive tattoo on your butt, and you may get out of the ticket, though. Just letting you know.
Meanwhile, he's hanging out at this tattoo parlor. Another thing that he likes to do is draw in these poor customers into long, drawn-out conversations about heavy metal music that only Nathan gave a fuck about. They're just standing, I don't know, man. Yeah, Pantera, yeah, they're great, I guess. Or Jewel or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, they're great. And Nathan's just, longer display of power. Goddamn fucking Dimebag Darrell broke him up. This guy's trying to tell this artist about his grandmother who passed away from breast cancer because it metastasized. Yeah, I want her lip to look like that. And Nathan's. And I'll tell you what, now that I think about it, that's a good thing to have when you're trying to put forever ink on somebody's skin, is having a crazy person ranting in the corner. That's a good distraction.
Yeah.
When there's no such thing as an eraser. Nathan, by the way, is also during this period regularly seen walking down the street while carrying an invisible dog and petting it.
Really?
Yes. Imagine Dr. Evil. Now take away Mr. Bigglesworth. Just.
Oh, man.
Unfortunately, we are right up on, we're right at the back door of the tragedy. On April 5th, 2004, things start kind of ramping up when Nathan Gale runs onto the stage during a Damage Plan. So Damage Plan is the group formed by Vinnie Paul and Dimebag Darrell after they left Pantera. Runs on stage during one of their performances at the Bogart's nightclub in Cincinnati, Ohio. Thankfully, he was unarmed at the time, and he was stopped by the band's security before he could reach them. He started fighting with security, refused to leave the stage, and in the altercation ended up knocking over a lighting rig that caused $1,800 in damages. When asked if they wanted to sue him, Damage Plan refused because they didn't want to have to show back up in Cincinnati for court hearings.
Really?
Yeah, and with that, we are now we're almost there, because in late November, there's not really a ramp up with this. That's what's weird about this, is like it goes from 0 to 100 like real quick.
Okay, so I have a question for you then before we go to 100. It's interesting, you think about it. There's people at Bogart's nightclub that don't maybe remember the name Nathan Gale, but if you explained the act that happened, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, no, I totally remember that." Are there any instances in your life where they may not know you by name, but they sure as heck remember the act?
Oh, so many. There's so many of those instances. I remember there's probably a few nurses at the Bowling Green Hospital that remember a butt-naked guy putting on his pinch-drenched clothes and thinking that he was stealthily sneaking out drunk as shit with his IV dragging behind him.
Oh.
There's probably a few bartenders at a bar called Tar Heels in Jacksonville, North Carolina, that remember a drunk guy thinking that he could single-handedly take on an entire outlaw biker gang, and they fortunately took pity on me and didn't kill me.
The outlaw biker gang remembers the embodiment of you, but
it was probably just so pathetic to them that they were like, because there was like 9 of them, and I was very. I remember they had their nicknames on the back of their vest,
mm-hmm.
and I was passively aggressively using their nicknames across the bar. Like I don't even remember what they were, but I was like, "Isn't that right, big dog?" And then I just like got louder and louder with each shot, like talking shit to this. There's probably like 9, 10, 11 of them. And they would have actually absolutely pummeled me. I wouldn't have stood a chance, but they took pity, thank God, because I'm still alive today.
The restraint of the gang. Anyway, I was just curious about that. I was curious, if that ever happened to you.
In late November of 2004, Nathan Gale buys a vehicle from Green's Auto Point at 825 Delaware Avenue so that he has a way of getting around instead of having to carry his invisible dog everywhere. I know you don't care, but Green's Auto Point is now an Italian shaved ice stand. Moving on. I wish I made that up. That's 100% true. Ironically, the man that sold him this car was Mark Green, who was also his football coach for the Lima Thunder.
Oh, really?
So that's a fun fact. On Wednesday, December 8th, 2004, we are here, Op. This is it. This is the day when the shit hits the fucking fan. Wednesday, December 8th, 2004. December 8th, actually my birthday. December 8th, 2004, Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. This day at 5:30 p.m., Nathan is hanging out at the Bear's Den Tattoo Parlor once again when he starts bombarding one of the artists there. It was a man by the name of Bo Toller, and asking him if he can buy some of their equipment or if they can order it for him. And Toller's like, dude, we do tattoos. We don't deal in tattoo equipment. And by the way, you have to be an artist to buy professional tattooing equipment. They don't sell it. They won't sell it to you anyways.
Right.
And Gale throws a tantrum. It puts him in a bad mood. He gets pissed off. He was reading a magazine. He throws it across the room. He yells, quote, "Bullshit, man. You're a fucking liar." And then stormed out.
You imagine? That's like going to a mechanic and being like, going to the tire place and being like, "Hey, you got any used tire pullers? The big giant machine that puts the tire on and off. Yeah. You got any used ones of those?" "No, we like buy one, and that's the one that that's kind of our business." And boom.
Oh, okay. Well, I would like to order one. All right. Well, I guess go on the internet. I don't know.
Oh, man.
The same day, Nathan disappears for a while, and the next time that Nathan Gale shows up, it is unfortunately later that evening in Columbus, Ohio, at 5055 Sinclair Road, which is the address of the Al Rosa Villa nightclub, which is unfortunately on this night where Damage Plan will be headlining a show.
Oh, no.
Nathan Gale has just pulled into the venue parking lot. Inside the club, the opening band is getting the crowd warmed up for Damage Plan. I looked and looked, and I could not find who the openers were for that night. Not that it would have mattered, I guess, but it bothers me. Sitting out there in the parking lot, he initially gets out of his car and just kind of starts pacing around outside of the club. It's cold, though. It's December. It's really cold. One of the patrons there asked Nathan, "Hey, why don't you go inside and warm up?" And Nathan responds, quote, "I don't want to see no shitty local band. I'm waiting for Damage Plan." Unquote. At 10:15 p.m., Damage Plan goes on stage and they start their set, playing to a crowd of 250 people. One thing I will say about Dimebag Darrell and Vinny Paul is they had gotten there to the venue, I think it was around 2:30. And I'm saying all this from memory. It was around 2:30 p.m. that day with their bus. And they were known in the metal community as like two of the most friendly, like down-to-earth dudes in the metal scene. They got there early while the rest of the band like slept and recuperated from the road. Vinnie Paul and Dimebag Darrell got out and started mingling with the fans out in the parking lot, walking around, getting pictures, signing autographs. There's a bunch of pictures from that day of Dimebag walking around, taking pictures with fans in the parking lot. Just a super sweet dude. It was all about the music for Dimebag. It was all about the music.
Yeah.
But at 10:15 p.m., like I said, the Damage Plan does go on stage. They start their set. They're playing to a crowd of 250 people. A few moments later, outside, Nathan climbs a 6-foot fence that blocks off the back of the building from the front of the building. He then enters the venue from the back door of the building carrying his Christmas present from Mom, that Beretta 92F 9mm semi-automatic pistol. At 10:18 p.m., 3 minutes after taking the stage, and 1 minute into their first song, which was called Newfound Power, Dimebag Darrell's bodyguard leaves the stage thinking, well, they're set up, they're playing, everything's good, and we're in the clear. And the second Dimebag Darrell's bodyguard steps off the stage, Nathan Gale comes out from behind a tall set of amps. A 7-foot wall of amps, they said, and speakers. Storms onto the stage, grabs Dimebag Darrell from behind, spins him around, and immediately shoots him in the head 4 times. Some people say that he yelled shit about, you broke up Pantera, you ruined Pantera, this is disputed. Some people said that never happened. Some people say that it did. Even if he did say that, I don't know how anybody in the crowd would have heard it, considering they were in the middle of a song.
Yeah.
You know, like, but he does grab Dimebag, spins him around, and shoots him 4 times with the Beretta. 3 rounds hit Darrell in the head. One of them hits him in his right hand. I would assuming it was a defensive.
Yeah, defensive wound.
Dimebag drops dead on stage in front of all the people. After killing Dimebag Darrell, Nathan Gale turns the gun on the crowd and begins firing. The next few moments are chaotic, and details vary drastically depending on who's telling the story, but we do know this. John Cat Brooks, who was Damage Plan's drum technician, was hit several times, once in the right leg, once in his right hand, and once in his torso. He was only hit, though, because in a heroic move, he tried to grab the gun from Nathan. Jeff Mayhem Thompson, who was the band's head of security, was killed when he tried to subdue Nathan, tried to tackle him. Aaron Hawk, who was an Al Rosavilla employee there, also tried to charge Nathan Gale whenever he ran out of rounds during a reload. But unfortunately for Hawk, Gale was way quicker at reloading than he suspected and was able to get it reloaded before he could stop him. And he killed Aaron Hawk with a few rounds in the struggle. A man named Nathan Bray, who was an audience member there, starts doing CPR on Dimebag Darrell as well as a man named Jeff Thompson. But he was also shot by Nathan Gale while trying to do so and killed.
Man, I got to say, this guy's like a dead eye for doing this. I mean,
yeah, he's a good shot. I mean, you have to qualify with a pistol in Marine Corps. So.
Wow.
Chris Paluska, the tour manager, he's also injured. While this is happening, 5 police officers enter through the front door, and they were led by Officer Rick Crum. And seeing the police officers enter, this is when Nathan Gale takes a hostage, John Cat Brooks, who was the one that was shot in the leg, torso, and arm. He's injured, and he starts using Cat Brooks as a human shield. Cat Brooks is still alive.
Wow.
So Nathan's on stage. He's got Cat Brooks. He's holding a pistol to his head. 5 cops come in through the front. What Nathan Gale doesn't know is that, and I'm going to say this man's name, and I wanted to make sure I was pronouncing it right. Before I said it, I watched news interviews, and this is how his name is pronounced. So, fuck you if you got a problem with it, I guess. This is his name. While he's holding the man hostage, with the gun. 5 officers come in the front. One officer by the name of Officer James D. Niggemeyer.
Dang.
That's his name. I don't know what to tell you. That's his name. Niggemeyer came in through the back door. Officer Niggemeyer did. Came in through the back door behind the stage, the same door that Nathan Gale had come in through. And Officer Niggemeyer's carrying a 12-gauge Remington 870 shotgun. And that'll do it. That'll do the job.
That will.
While Gale is focused on the 5 officers to his front, he never sees Officer Niggemeyer enter through the rear. And at 10:21 p.m., Officer Niggemeyer gets one round off with that 12-gauge Remington 870, and it hits Nathan Gale square in the fucking face.
Oof.
And turns his head into a fucking red blooming onion.
It's just a demogorgon instant.
There were people in the crowd that literally screamed, "They just blew his fucking head off."
Oh, jeez.
Nathan Gale dropped dead long before he even hit the ground. Now I have the autopsy reports for both Dimebag Darrell and Nathan Gale, and there's nothing really to say. It's just, I didn't find any new information I combed through them. There's not really anything there, but
I've got something haunting to add to this. So while you were talking, I had ChatGPT, which knows everything. I said, what other bands played on the night that Dimebag Darrell died? Came back. This'll give you chills. So the supporting acts for the evening included the bands Volume Dealer and 12 Gauge. Oh,
that's very haunting.
Isn't that crazy? I got kind of chills when, right when you said that about the officer, it came back with the answer, and I was like, "Whoa!"
12 gauge.
That's crazy.
And I gotta say, 12 gauge had the most popular set of the night. They are a one-hit wonder.
One-hit wonder. Jeez. Wow. One and done.
Nathan Gale is now dead, and there's nothing but chaos laying in his path, blood and bodies. On investigation, he was found to have 35 rounds left. He had 5 still in his clip and 30 rounds in his pockets. 28-year-old nurse and concert attendee Mindy Reese begins trying to give first aid to Dimebag Darrell. Her and another fan begin administering cardiopulmonary resuscitation until the paramedics finally arrived, but they were unable to revive Dimebag. It's also impressive. I got to really give props to the police department here. The first phone call to the cops went in at 10:18 p.m. That was the first phone call. Hey, there's somebody shooting up the club. By 10:21,
wow,
Nathan Gale was dead.
Dang, 3 minutes.
That's from the call to Nathan Gale is dead on his back on stage. 3 minutes.
Ooh. Some fast work.
And another creepy twist of events, Op. This murder, not only was it 12 gauge that opened, but this murder was exactly 24 years to the day after the murder of John Lennon by Mark David Chapman.
Really?
Yes. Unfortunately, that's kind of where this story ends up. Officer Niggemeyer was cleared of any wrongdoing. He was nominated for a bravery award organized by America's Most Wanted. He also received the Distinguished Law Enforcement Valor Award. He was named the Law Enforcement Officer of the Year in 2005 by the NRA. But sadly, 3 years later, Officer Niggemeyer left the occupation of police officer after being diagnosed with PTSD from that night at the venue, the Villa Rosa venue.
Wow.
Of killing Nathan Gale.
I don't blame him.
Point blank with a 12 gauge, you're going to remember that.
Yeah, and we, I'm sure there's accounts of it that are out there, but as the police officer coming in, you've got to be questioning right before you pull the trigger. Am I pulling the trigger on the right guy? Is this...
Oh, he didn't have it. There was no question about that. He had the man hostage.
Oh, that's right. Okay, never mind. Yep, nope, you're right. Oof, still.
Now, over the years, there have been so many songs and albums dedicated to Dimebag Darrell. I mean, this Dimebag Darrell, if you were to make a Mount Rushmore of rock stars, he would be on it.
Yeah.
My favorite by far of all the songs and albums dedicated to Dimebag Darrell is without a doubt the 2005 Black Label Society song, In This River. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
I think you actually, that made it onto one of the Never Daily Music Tuesday on Thursdays. I think you played it. I think you played In This River.
Oh, did it?
On one of those.
It's a really good song. It's a very sad,
very dark song.
Zakk Wylde, the lead singer of Black Label Society, was a very close personal friend of Dimebag Darrell. Said he was always so much fun to be around and such a positive, loving man. And that was Zakk Wylde's tribute to Dimebag, was the song In This River.
Dimebag Darrell also had the fastest picking hand. It may have been exceeded at this point, but they clocked his picking hand. He had the fastest picking hand, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's probably exceeded at this point. Thanks a lot, Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
December 7th, 2021, which would have been about 17 years to the day. The murders happened December 8th, 2004. This was December 7th, 2021. So almost to the day, on that day, the Alrosa Villa was demolished and leveled. And that is, sadly, that's where our story ends up. The gunman is dead. Dimebag Darrell is dead. The music industry is changed forever. And also, Phil, Dimebag Darrell's brother, or not Phil, I'm sorry, Vinnie Paul, Dimebag Darrell's brother, also passed away, I believe, in 2018 from natural causes. And that's kind of where our story ends. Phil Anselmo, the lead singer of Pantera, he's still alive, doing well. They recently actually, he's gotten clean. He's gotten his shit together, which is good because I like to see Phil doing well.
Yeah. Phil
Anselmo and Black Label Society actually are on tour right now as Pantera.
Really?
Yes. Black Label Society filled the space of Dimebag and Vinny, which is who better to do it, than close friends of Dimebag. And him and Black Label Society and Phil Anselmo are now touring as Pantera.
Well, and Zakk Wylde, he's such an epic player. Like he played for Ozzy all those years. Oh, I have one more update for you. So on that 94 list, the Rolling Stone, Pantera Vulgar Display of Power actually made it into the 10th slot in...
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
The 100 greatest metal albums of all time, being beat out. Well, there was actually a Megadeth one at 8, but number 1 of all time, according to them in 94, was Black Sabbath's Paranoid from 1970.
Nah.
Which I disagree with, but...
Appetite for Destruction.
I'd put Master of Puppets over
Master of Puppets. Yeah, that's fair.
I'd probably
by that new band Metallica.
Yeah, well, yeah, and at the time, you're right. It was pretty fresh. 86, I think, is when Master of Puppets came out. So anyway, well, that was a good one. I really I hated that in all the right ways. If that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. No weird sex stuff in this one. Sorry, Op. I know that's your favorite part.
Well, I tried to kind of cajole that into the beginning with our pornography websites concepts.
You did.
So, we got it in there.
But that's all I got. It's a downer. This one's kind of a downer.
Yeah.
I guess after you turn this off, listen to In This River.
Yeah. It's a good way to end it.
Drink some whiskey for Dimebag. Pour one out for Dimebag.
I'm going to go check and see if the Mormon Tabernacle Choir has done a version of In This River. I'll let you know. Okay.
Dimebag Dimebag Darrell, forever in our hearts.
Yep.
I love you guys.
Love you, Guy.
And if you enjoyed this show, do the things.